Hey, welcome back Prairie Wings. I'm Merl and I am under my truck and there is no transmission in it because I am doing a 4L80 swap. So I'm taking the 4L60 out, putting 4L80 in. There's a few things that need to be done to do that. And what I want to cover is what you need to do in the wiring harness to be able to accomplish that. So let's take a look. I already started on this and I thought, hey, why can't I just show other people how to do this? So originally this is the plug that fits in the 4L60. Well, guess what? It fits in the 4L80 as well, but you have to switch some wires around. Now, this plug is in here and really all you got to do is take a small screwdriver, pop it in the side, this plug comes out. The next thing that you got to do is if you look way down inside, actually I'm going to get a light so we can do that. Okay, that's a little better. So if we look way down inside here, there are these little gray tabs and they're holding the pins in. Now if you look, I have a pick behind that one and it's pulled away. Once you have it pulled away, you can just pull on the wire and that is going to pop out. On the back of this plug, I just took and cut some of the tape off here so that I can actually get in behind this to pull it out. Now how I did that is I actually used a 90-degree pick and you just slowly work it in. I actually go in beside this and then you can pull it out and you just work your way around to pull this rubber seal out. But before that, when you look at the back of the plug, originally this white wire was in place of where this brown wire is in, and the tan wire was here, the brown wire was here. So originally we had the tan with a black tracer, in my case, some of our tan. We had the brown wire, and then we had the white over here. Now, to change this over, you actually pull the white wire out of this plug, put the brown in there. Then we pull these out of the rubber, and if you have the actual plugs to close these off, which I do, I don't have in here, you put them in. If you don't, you're probably going to use some silicone once this is back together. Now these two wires, that isn't the only thing that we want to do, but for now, we're just going to leave them out and we're going to put this plug back together. I guess I should mention, to get this wire back in here, all you do is push it in and it will clip right in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to slide this all back in place. Before you do that, don't do the mistake I just did. Pop that back in, continue working this in. These are the pins that I have for sealing terminals. I'm not sure where I got them. I'm sure if you dig around, you're going to be able to find where they are. They work beautiful in this case for seals. Now, I guess I made a little bit of an oopsie because I never talked to you about this. And I'll show you what it looks like before you take it apart. And it's pretty easy to take apart. Now, these two wires that we have here, we're going to leave them out. And the reason why is they are going to be your second speed sensor wiring, which I will show you in a second when we look at the top of the transmissions, the difference in them. So this connector, if I put it on that way, I'd have a problem, wouldn't I? There we go. So you want to make sure that you get your wiring put out the same way. I suppose you could have taped that up, but it isn't going to matter. If we look at the 4L60 transmission, one thing you're going to notice is it has a bolt-on bell housing. That's one of the ways you can tell it's physically smaller. So we have our shift indicator switch there. and we have nothing on this side of the transmission. If we go around to this side of the transmission, here's where that plug goes, as well as it has a rear speed output sensor, no input sensor. All right, we'll take a look at this 80. This is my dirty donor that I got. Well, the bell housing is part of the transmission housing. No split in that. We have our shift indicator switch, neutral, safety, reverse switch, whatever. And then we have our input speed sensor and our output speed sensor. And if you look at this transmission, the plug is on this side as well. Now, a note, if you're grabbing one of these out of the scrapyard, this bracket that holds your shifter actually has a provision for it on the 80 where it doesn't on the 60. It's going to be straight across. So when you're doing the swap, you're going to want to grab that shifter mount as well. And if we look at the other side of this, we have no speed sensors on this side. So what are we going to do with the speed sensors on this? Well, the original speed sensor that was on the other side where the 60 is going to be in here. Our plug that we switch over is going in here, and those two extra wires are going to go into this sensor. Okay, if we look at this harness, what I've done now is the two wires that I took out of this plug, I've pulled out of the harness back to this junction here. This was a factory junction untaped, and that way I'm going to be able to reach to the front because those two wires are going to the input speed sensor. Now, if you look at this plug here, this is for the output on the 60, and it's going to be also be for the output on the 80. You can see that connector. If you're familiar with the GM stuff, that connector is used on other various sensors. I thought I had a new one. It's the weekend. I don't have a new one, so I'm going to have to, because the connectors broke off this zip tie it on the speed sensor, till I get a new housing for this. I can order the housing separate. But anyway, all I am going to do is take and connect this on. It doesn't matter. These aren't polarity sensitive, but that is what I have to do at the transmission end. We're going to have to do more up under the hood, but I'll just show you what this looks like when I get it together. And just FYI, I thought I'd mention this was actually off a temp sensor. Anyway, as I taped the harness up, I just taped each sensor in the direction it should go. So this one's going to plug in right above the transmission main plug, and this one is going to plug into the front speed sensor right above where this plugs in on your indicator switch. Let's take a look under the hood. And I think I kept fairly GM-esque on how I wrapped this up. Let me know what you think. The next thing we have to do is locate the ECU. And in this case, it's the ECU and TCU in these Gen 3 vehicles. But I have an advantage because I don't have an engine rad, nothing in the way. The battery normally sits here. But it doesn't matter because these are easy to access. So what we need to do is just pull this cover off, and then we can unclip this, and this ECU, it pops out to where we can get at the plugs pretty easy. So, and if you also look, they talk about blue and red connector, but it actually says on here blue, even though you can't see, but we're going to have both of them off anyway. We'll get into that. Just for ease of explanation, you can see that these here, you gotta push them in, and they're not real nice to get off, but you push them in, and I take a screwdriver and just put it underneath this edge and give it a little twist to get this to pop off. So you need both of these off. Next thing is you got to get these lock tabs off, or these lock guards, whatever you want to call them. And if you just go and try and pry this off, you're going to pull this actual out of this aluminum housing, and you don't want to do that. So if you look in the end here, there's actually a little white tab, and it just pushes down. And once you have that pushed down, you can pull it off. You're going to have to do that on the connector that is up. It's actually the white wires in pin 79, the white wire, and we have to take that white wire, pull it out of there, and put it into, well, red or green connector. There is either red or green. And this is considered in some the C connector, C1. In this, it's a J1. So it depends on the year of the vehicle, you're going to see that difference. Well, I'll show you what I mean. On this ECU, one side is green, the other side is blue, and you see that's a J. Some of them you're going to see C. Now that we have that connector off, this is very similar to the gray connector on the transmission. It has a little release tab in here. And what we're doing in this one is we only need this top one off because we're pulling the white wire out of pin 79. And if you look on the back of these, there's actually little tiny numbers on them the whole way. So this is the C1 or J1 blue connector. And we're going to grab a hold of this wire, give it a push in a little bit so that this tab doesn't hold it up. And we are going to use hold our tongue just right and pull that out of there. Now, in this one here, there's going to be plugs in there that we're going to be able to swap into here to weather seal it. I was completely mistaken on something I just told you. There's no plugs in these ones. These ones are actually just the gasket that isn't perforated. So in this green or red connector, whichever, C2, J2, whatever, it is pin number 22, which is the second one down here. So you're going to want to push through the gasket with something. And then this pin will just go straight in to that connector hole. Now you don't want to take and push a huge hole in there. You just want something to get through that gasket so you don't have to push the hole in, and then that just pins right in. So from 79 up here to pin number 2 down here with that white wire. And we're going to have to tie that up after. In the red or green connector now, we're going to be taking pin number 42, which is up in the top here, second one down on this side, and we're going to be sticking it in right beside the last one we put right there. So again, I mean, we just pull this pin out of here. And now we are putting this pin in 23. So tan wire, tan with the black tracer in this case, from 42 down to 23, and then put this back together. The wiring part of it, well, that's it. But I just want to touch on the ECU a little bit. Now, you're probably going to have to hire someone if you don't understand how to tune these transmissions. I use HP tuners, and I'll just give you a rough lowdown if you're using HP tuners, how to do it. Now, if you go into HP tuners under compare file, you can do a segment swap. And so you can swap the programming from a 4L80E to a 4L60E in that section. The precaution and the thing that people fight for a whole bunch is you need the same operating system. Now, it's not as big a deal in most cases because the repository has a lot of operating systems that are going to be compatible with the operating system in your vehicle. And if you use the actual search instead of trying to pick a bunch of vehicles and look through them for the operating system, throw the operating system number in the search bar in the repository, and there's a good chance that someone's already loaded that. If not, you're going to have to potentially get it flashed with the GM tool or find somebody that you can get that operating system programming from. But other than that, I mean, as far as part of the electronic side as well as the tuning side. That's what you would be doing. And then you're going to have to deal with some other things like potentially a crossmember, depending on what you got the tranny out of. So the wiring and the basics of the ECU stuff for a stock unit, we got you covered. If you're going to play like we are in this, my daughter's rebuilding an engine for this truck. This is my dump runner. Throw anything in the back of it and take it to the dump. We'll get you there. Now it's going to happen a little bit faster. I hurt the motor in this. That's why she's building an engine. So hopefully you watch those engine build videos, as well as we're going to abuse this truck. Now, the other thing that you're going to have to be careful of when you're doing this swap, not a whole bunch more. Tranny cooler lines are going to be a little bit different. If you're putting it in a hot rod, the 80 is bigger. In this truck, it's going to fit just fine. I need to clarify, yes, it fits in this truck, no problem. Clearance-wise, it's bigger transmission. But the U-joint here is a crossover U-joint. So this is the yoke off of the original 4L80 vehicle. It is a bigger yoke and it has a bigger spread U-joint, different style. And then this is the 60 drive shaft. It is smaller, so you can buy that crossover U-joint. Then the mount, well, the original 60 mount was way up there. The transmissions are roughly the same length, but this mount is in a different location on the transmission. So the Crossmember, what I did is I plasma cut out a piece of 1/4 inch and braced it down to here. And the reason I went this wide and braced it down to here is because if you look here, well, I had to take and slice the entire bulge off the front straight across here. And then there's just a little wing of it left on there. And if you want to work on this transmission, I mean, it's going to be tough to get at those back bolts. You'll have to drop this member, but it has clearance now. The other thing that you want to note is the 4L60 dipstick isn't going to fit. I had a van one, so I actually have a 2500 truck one coming, and then I'm changing to AN cooler lines. Now, the fittings that go into the transmission are different for different years of 4L80s. You're going to want to make sure you know what your transmission you have to make up your new cooler lines, because those fittings, the threads in the transmission are different. So if you order the wrong year, they're not going to fit in. I am sure that someone could just, you know, cut the lines and use rubber hose in or whatever, but I'm not interested in leaks, and these lines were leaking up in the front anyway, so I'm happy to get rid of them. The yoke is different. The drive shaft is still the original small little one, so it's a 10-bolt diff. We're going to abuse the crap out of this truck, so hopefully you watch for those videos. And I hope that this video helped you out and gave you a basic idea and understanding what you're going to have to deal with the swap. I really enjoyed making this video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you have a great day and get going on your swap.